You are listening to the Align and Inspire podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Monique, and in this episode, we are going to be talking about systems that bring you freedom in your online program. So, welcome to the podcast. If you are new to this series, welcome. My name is Lauren Monique, and I am a teacher turned entrepreneur, mom of two, and we are doing a series this month all about how you can transition from an established one-on-one coaching practice. Maybe you're an expert, maybe you are a professional of some kind, maybe you're a coach, and you want to create a group program, a quality, well-structured group program. This is what this series is for. And it is a series called the Scalable Signature Program series. And this is actually episode 3 of 4. So you can take a look back at the first 2 episodes. We talked about creating a magnetic offer. We talked about designing a really quality program. And today we're talking about the systems you need to run it effectively and to create that freedom. Because what I've really noticed is that sometimes going from one-to-one to a group can feel daunting, especially because what we do is so custom. Generally speaking, one-to-one, it's like, how do we make it work into a group? It can feel overwhelming, the number of tasks involved, especially if you've got other responsibilities. Maybe you still are in your 9 to 5. Maybe you're a mom like me and you're considering your kids. Like, how are you going to do it? But it's actually quite simple. The 3 elements that you need, and maybe this is a review for you at this point, maybe you've been following along, maybe not, but the 3 elements you need are an offer that is magnetic, you need a program that gets repeatable results, and you need systems that give you freedom. So in this episode, we're going to be talking all about the systems that you need to bring in more freedom. And that's probably going to be really beneficial for you if you are full with one-to-ones right now. Truly, it is so life-changing. And next week, we're going to be talking about how you can actually fill that program. So what systems do you really need to run a signature program or a scalable group program well? You might find this challenging. For one, maybe you're like, listen, I don't even know if I want to listen to this episode because I do not like systems. Systems feel boring. Systems feel restrictive. Systems are not my thing. I can't stick to them. If any of those resonate with you, I totally get it, but I promise it's going to be worth it. And I'm going to show you what you need, even if systems are not your thing, even if they make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. I'm going to make systems feel a lot more approachable for you, and they're really going to be useful for you. So stay tuned if that's you, okay? But maybe you've got people helping you already. You've already outsourced, and you're really trying to make it work, but it never feels like it's done. Maybe you feel like, you're working at soccer practice during bedtimes, like you're always thinking about work. It never feels like it's quite done. Systems could be a really great solution for you. And maybe it's going okay, but maybe it's like, no, I really want to grow this. Like, I want to get to 60, 75 people, 100 people in my group program. But how can you do that without everything blowing up in your face? Like, I'm just going to be real. Like, if you don't have any systems or structure in place and you bring 75 people in, you are going to be running around like crazy. People aren't going to be honestly, people are not necessarily going to be happy with what you do, because you really need to make sure you've got the systems in place, so that I kind of think of it as like, I'm doubling myself. Like, it's not just me, but I've put little like automations or systems or routines in place that I don't have to think about it, but it's like I'm magnified. And I'll explain what I mean in a moment. So I'm going to show you too in this episode about what kind of systems you can think about putting in place so that you can have that really quality personal experience even as you grow your program. Because that's one thing that I think is a challenge when you don't have a scalable course that's completely DIY. You really need to have systems in place in a group program to still maintain that quality connection, that extra support. You need to be intentional about the systems you put in if you don't want to be working all the time, if you want to have more freedom. So when you've got those systems in place, you're going to have more freedom. You're going to have more space to be able to think of new ideas, to like, if you're like me and you're always thinking about your business, you're going to have more time to be creative. You're going to have more time to spend with your family, with the people who mean a lot to you. And you're not going to have to sacrifice the experience, the quality experience that you give your clients because you have those back-end systems in place. So let's take a look at some big ideas for you to think about when you're thinking about how to structure and systematize, optimize your group program. Okay. So the first challenge you might be thinking is systems sound boring, or systems are restrictive, or systems are not my thing, or I just can't stick to them. If any of these ring true, you are like many of my clients, not just you, but there's a way that we can make it work for you. But before I get into that, I want to get clear on what I mean by the word systems. Okay. So systems for me are a predetermined set of decisions for repetitive tasks. I'll say that again. A predetermined set of decisions for repetitive tasks. Because if you've been following me for a while, you know that I started out teaching productivity. I helped teachers stop working weekends, and then I kind of transitioned and started helping entrepreneurs set up their systems so they could work less, they could have more. I still take on some one-on-one clients like that, not a number of them. I don't have a lot of space for it anymore, but that's where I started, right? And systems were a big part of what I did, but it doesn't have to be like, what I've noticed is a lot of entrepreneurs think, oh, system tech. Like, what kind of system are you using to host your course? Or what kind of system are you using to send out emails? Or what kind of system are you using to send out text messages? Like, yeah, that could be a system. But to me, that's a tech like platform. Like, it's a tool that you're using. A system, it's like a process. It's an automation. It's a routine. It's a SOP that you follow for any repetitive tasks, because that's what gets you out of A, wasting your time doing the same thing over and over again, but B, it gets you out of the decision fatigue. Because I think I read once that entrepreneurs make, I think, like 1,000 decisions a day. Don't quote me on that, but it was something along those lines. We make so many decisions a day, never mind if you're a mom like me. You make so many decisions today, and if you're wasting your energy and time making little decisions over and over again that you don't need to, you're really wasting space on things that you could be doing to bring in more revenue, to support your clients better, to have free time. So we want to get rid of those repetitive tasks, those repetitive decisions. And I like to think of it as like the decide once idea is like, instead of deciding multiple times, it's like, what can I do to decide once? This is what I'm doing. And then I'm moving forward with my life. So systems do not need to be restrictive. They could be a simple routine, a manual routine that you do, that someone on your team does. And they can be as elaborate as like a long workflow automation with multiple steps in it. Okay. And you might have different tools that interact with one another, or you might have one tool that does everything. But the tool, like the tech, is not the system. It's the whole process that you decide and you create to get to a result. Make sense? So what I like to encourage people to do are create intuitive systems. Okay, intuitive systems, which might sound like an oxymoron to you, but intuitive systems. The reason I find intuitive systems so important is if you think about, if you just have systems and you don't have a lot of personalization or a lot of intuition, you might find that's when it can feel a little bit like stagnant or stale or restrictive, because it's not personalized to you. It might feel like you're trying to follow someone else's system that doesn't feel right. You can't maintain it, or you like the idea of it, you don't know how to structure it. Like, it just feels detached. Do you know what I mean? But what I find a lot of my clients end up doing is they kind of shy away or resist the idea of systems, or they don't even know. And maybe this is you don't even know that that's necessarily the solution. And you end up feeling stretched thin, or you end up feeling capped. So stretched thin, you might feel like you're just putting out fires all day long. You're running around. You're trying to get as much done as you possibly can. You find yourself, I don't know, working during baseball practice or soccer practice or during bedtime, and you feel like you're just putting out fires. You can feel really stretched thin, even as you bring on a group program, because you're still like, there's still more people for you to serve, right? Or you can feel capped. And you might not even consciously know that you're doing this. But if you don't have the capacity to bring on more people without it costing you in another way, like costing your time with your kids, costing you like your stress, if you don't have those systems in place to bring in more people easily, you're going to feel either capped or you're going to feel stretched thin when there's too much personalization and there aren't systems supporting you. So the idea that we want is to have systems that work for you, that are intuitive for you. Intuitive meaning that they are, I mean, I'm all about the intuition, of course, but also intuitive, like they're just natural for you. Like there's something that's like easy or easier for you to do so that you can maintain. So it could be something more complex, but if you are more of a go with the flow person, maybe you just need a simple system, like a manual system or a simple routine, and you start to build on it over time. So the big thing that I want you to know is like, if systems haven't worked for you before, you don't like them, or you feel stretched thin, you don't know what the solution is, it is to have a system, but to have the right systems in place for you that feel intuitive for you, so you can give that personalized support to your clients and it feels natural to you and you have these systems in place to support you. Does that make sense? So this is a huge shift to make, that if you are reluctant to take on systems, I'm not the kind of person, like I'm a very kind of go with the flow kind of person. I like structure, but I am not a rigid, like automations over all things. You know what I mean? Like you can have simple routines that are going to support you, that are going to allow you to support more people. And that's what intuitive systems can bring for you. Okay. So that's the first element is, if systems feel boring, think about how you can make them more intuitive for you. How can you make them more personalized? How can you make them more natural for you? The second thing that I wanted to talk to you today is, what are the main systems that you need in place? Remember, predetermined set of decisions for repetitive tasks for your actual group program. So there are three elements, three main pieces to consider, okay? And it really is around how your program rolls. You need to have an onboarding system, you need to have delivery systems, and you need to have end of program systems, okay? So onboarding systems, and think about where you're at. If you've already got a program or you're thinking about creating one, or even with your one-on-one clients, you can think about what are your existing systems right now as I'm chatting through. So onboarding systems is like, from the moment someone says yes to your offer, do they have a way to pay you? Do they have automated emails that go through that give them the login information? Where do they get the Zoom calls? Where do they get the information? Do they have everything they need to get started right away without you having to actually have a call with them? The goal is for them to get everything they need without you having to communicate back and forth. Yes, there's client support, but the more you can do in advance, that someone could join your program at 10 p.m. at night and still have everything they need to get started, that's what you're looking for. I remember I joined one program that I was so excited about joining, and it was still a great program, but I joined it just before the holidays. And it was an expensive program for me, and I did not get anything from them. I think I got one welcome email, but I didn't have any like videos to look at, onboarding, like when were the calls going to be, Zoom, anything, for like 2 weeks until January. And so I was like, all of that time when I was really excited about joining the program and also nervous, like, did I make the right call? Nothing was there to reassure me that I made the right choice. You know, I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like that. And so that's what an onboarding system does. It's like, you don't have to be working, but your client is like, oh, I'm so excited about this program. I can already see how it's going to work for me. I'm already getting quick wins. Like, I'm set. So our goal is an onboarding system that gets your clients ready to go. They have everything they need without you having to be there. And if you want a checklist and like an actual process to follow, I know for me, like creating a process wasn't necessarily like challenging. I could look at other courses I've taken, but things that were really helpful for me were to actually have like scripts to follow for like what videos I needed to have in place and what kind of emails and what should be included in the emails that I sent. So I actually created a short, it's a small product that you can buy, that you can purchase. It's a low price. And it will show you, it's called the Optimized Onboarding Blueprint. And I'll link it up in the show notes if you want to check that out. And it really has everything that you need, like scripts. Here's how to automate it. Here's how to here are all the steps you need to make sure like the checklist, you have everything ready to go to set up your onboarding blueprint, your onboarding system in less than 4 hours. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave it in the show notes. Take a look at it. And so then you can get your onboarding system set up less than 4 hours. Boom, you're good to go. And you can focus on the things you actually like to do, which is likely coaching. Okay. So that's the first type. The first thing you need, onboarding systems. The next thing you need are delivery systems. And again, this is not tech. I've had clients or potential clients tell me like, oh, I've got Zoom. I'm good. I'm like, no. Zoom is like, Zoom is just the begin, like that's like just the top level. Yeah, of course you do need Zoom if you're going to run group calls or a way to run group calls, but that's just skimming the surface. Okay. You need a way, like I always think about it, like when you think about if you're a mom like me, the beginning of the school year and all the information that needs to go out to parents to run the school, like the teacher's not doing that. That's the school. Like, yeah, teacher's doing some of it, but that's the secretary, right? Like that, and the admin who's running all of that. You need that in a smaller version in your group program. For every deliverable, you need a system. So for every deliverable, you need a system. So like deliverables, this is part of when I teach offers, this is one of the pieces of your offer. You need in your deliverables, those are the things that people get. Okay. So that's like the Zoom calls, the Facebook group, live event or meditation or any of those kinds of deliverables that you get, checklists, workbooks, whatever it is. All of those things need a system in that they need a way for people to be able to access them. So for every deliverable, you need a way for people to access them. Like if you're doing Zoom calls every week, how are people going to make sure that they get the link? How are they going to know what to add to their calendar? How do they know what they need to bring? All of those kinds of things, you need to have it thought out. If you're sending out weekly emails, are you going to have a template to follow? Like every deliverable in your program needs a system. So when you create your deliverables, you need to think about the delivery system that you're going to use to deliver it. Make sense? And then the last area that you need to think about is at the end of your program. So I remember when I was running my first program of intentional teaching, so helping teachers stop working weekends, and I was like, yes, I ran it. Oh my gosh, they got such great results. That's so exciting. This works. I did my first version. And then I went to go sell it again. Then I was like, oh my God, I have like zilch testimonials, like zero. Like I didn't think about that. How do I get testimonials? And I felt so uncomfortable asking for testimonials. But you want to make sure that you have a system in place from the get-go so you can get those testimonials and it's just part of your process. So when someone finishes with you or like 2/3 in, when they're like, oh my gosh, I've had this great experience, you get that testimonial and you're not asking them like 3 months later when it's not like, then it's just like something on their to-do list. But when you have people in front of you, you can talk to them. You want to have a system in place to get those testimonials. So that's part of the end of program. That might be all you need, but you might also need either offboarding, like if your clients need anything like certifications or end of email, like end of program email, or we're so thrilled for you to have, we can complete this or whatever. Or you might have a renewal system. What's your process to make sure, like if you have a renewal offer, a back-end offer, how are people going to get that renewal? Even something that's like, if people are leaving and you have a higher touch program, I always like something that's like, that really leaves them feeling like, oh, I had such a great experience and I'm going to refer my friends to this program. So even if it's like a short voice note from you, like, oh, we're so thrilled that you were able to make XYZ progress. It was great to have you as a client, or some sort of letter, like something that feels personalized, like doesn't have to be big, but something at the end that helps people really feel good about their experience with you. So then when they go to talk to you, like that lasting ending impression is positive, and they can go to refer you to their friends. Okay. So you need a system to think. You need to think through what's your process when someone ends with you. How are you going to get those testimonials? How are you going to get referrals? What are you going to end? What note are you going to end on? So let's recap the things we chatted about today. Systems might sound boring, but it's not about having boring systems or restrictive systems. When you have intuitive systems, and that's what I teach, systems that are natural to you, they're supporting you so that you can support your clients or your students, okay? And then the main 3 types that you need, and we can make them intuitive and supportive for you, are onboarding, delivery systems, and then at the end of your program, you need systems to end on a really positive note. So it helps you sell your program again, and it helps them feel really good about the experience that they had with you. So if you found this helpful, if you found this useful, first off, you can check out my optimized onboarding blueprint. I will link it in the show notes. And I'd love for you to come to my upcoming workshop where we dive into everything you need, the 5 secrets, but really like the ins and outs of building and optimizing your online group program. So if you're an established coach or service provider, some sort of expert mentor, and you have your one-on-one clients, but you're ready to start your group program, I would love to have you join us in our upcoming training, and I will link it below in the show notes as well. So thank you so much for listening. If you found this helpful, I would love it if you left a review. I love to read them. I appreciate them. It helps our podcast grow. And I will see you next week on another episode of the Align and Inspire podcast.